Welcome to our weekly Q&A show where we answer submitted questions live on YouTube on Tuesdays at 2 p.m.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday Q&A show. I just want to introduce this really quick and then get to the questions. We do this every Tuesday and answer questions that are submitted by email, Facebook, phone calls, all everything. And we just added Gear Garage to Whitewater Guidebook. And if you look on this website, whitewaterguidebook.com, there's a Gear Garage tab, and you'll see Ask a Question or Add a Comment. So we found this to be the new home of where we can have questions asked for the show instead of not really sure where to submit them or where to ask them. So hopefully those of you watching can check that out, because in the past we've been having people email to Aaron, to me, all over the place. And doing it all through here is the easiest way to go. So with that, let's get started with the questions. And the first one has to do with padding layers. And this person's considering options for a padding jacket and pants to be worn with a full 4-3 wetsuit, which that's a lot of wetsuit. It's a lot of wetsuit. Anyway, I don't kayak, but I'm considering a dry top, a double tunnel. It appears these are specifically for kayakers, but I'm wondering if this is an overall option, better option, or unnecessary if not a kayaker. Oh man, a 4-3 wetsuit, if that has arms too, I don't even know if you need a paddle jacket with that. But if you wanted one, I would probably just get a regular paddle jacket. The nice thing about a dry top is it has a neck gasket and wrist gasket. So when I kayaked a lot before I had a dry suit, I wore a Farmer John wetsuit with a double tunnel dry top, but man, it's a tough one. I'd probably just do with the 4-3 wetsuit. I'd probably just do a regular paddle jacket. Yep. All right, next up, I'll be purchasing a Sotar SL liquid 14-foot. The straight section is 90 inch and the width is 84 inches. I want to go with an NRS fishing frame. Okay, first of all, we get a lot of questions about fishing, and we are not fishing. We don't fish on this show. Like, we can give you the best advice possible, but it might be useless because I don't know anything about fishing or fishing frames. So I'm going to do my best to answer this question, but this isn't a fishing show. But to get the best fitting frame from them, I would like to have a custom order. Do you have an opinion how important it is for the frame length to match exactly the straight section? Wondering if a 78-inch length frame would suffice or somehow impact performance by going shorter. Well, first of all, you say you have a 90-inch straight section and you're wondering if a 78-inch length frame would work. I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, classically, you can go up to 90 inches, so 78-inch length should be fine. Most people would not do a frame past the straight section. I have a little bit. It depends on how much rocker the boat has, but I will go past the straight section a little bit personally. But I know people are totally against that. So it does depend on the rocker of the boat. But a 78-inch length frame seems like it would fit in a 90-inch straight section. All right, next question. Oh, here we have a comment. I wore a 5-3 wetsuit on the canyon trip, 60 weather, and thought I was going to have a heat stroke. Yeah, that's a lot of wetsuits, and it's pretty stiff too, isn't it? Like when you have a wetsuit with the arms, and especially a 5-3, you just kind of walk around like this the whole time. Seems like it wouldn't work that well. Okay, oar length. I've watched your videos on the math to calculate the oar length you should get. Awesome. All you do is take distance between the oar locks and multiply by 1.63. The math behind it could get way more complicated. You could take into effect how tall you are, tube size, a million factors. But what really matters, I mean, all those do have a little bit of an effect, but the distance between the oar locks just dwarfs everything. And so you just find the distance between your oar locks or your pins, if you're on pins and clips, and multiply by 1.63. Most people will say multiply by 1.5. They'll say divide by 2 and multiply by 3, which is multiplying by 1.5. But 1.63, I think, is a little bit better. Anyway, would you advise waiting to order oars until I actually have the boat on hand? and use those measurements, or is there a way to know ahead of time? Yeah, I mean, I would probably, if you can wait. I know oars are hard to get right now, so if you wait another month for your boat and order oars, it might be 6 months before you get the oars. But if you can wait, I would, because you can just take a tape measure and measure it and get it accurate. Um, you can know. I mean, depends on the frame. I think this question was related to this one, and so if it's an NRS frame, you can just look at the frame dimensions on the website and look at the oar tower dimensions and do the math and figure it out. So, or you can call NRS and ask them, what's the distance between the oar locks going to be on this frame? They could probably hopefully help you with that. So, I mean, I think the only thing is with those NRS oar locks, they kind of do this and they can splay out, right? So it depends how you set them. If you set them, if you calculate it like this, but then set them like that, the oars will be too short. Willie Bum Bum, how did you arrive at a 1.6? Good question. I looked at I basically looked at a ton of frames that I've used, and I've looked at on 18-foot boats, 16-foot boats. I went to friends' boats and measured this, and I found that people that were rowing really well were all like 1.6 to 1.65. I probably looked at like 15 different frames, from cataract to raft to big boat to small boat. So yeah, yeah, and I just kind of averaged them all, and it came out to be 1.63. Pretty straightforward. If you're good at trigonometry, you can figure out what oar length you require, sine, cosine. I'm not sure I understand this comment. If you're good at trigonometry, you can figure out what oar length you'll require, sine, cosine, and such. I'm pretty good at trigonometry, and I don't quite understand what you're saying here, Heidi. Yeah, I'm pretty good at trigonometry. I'm a little confused. Sine and cosine are important for trigonometry, but it's more complicated than that, I think. Okay, next question. I purchased a Jimbo from Wing and was wondering if you put anything in the bottom for support. Is it normal to sink in? Yeah, those floors, they do sink a little bit. I kind of wish they were a little thicker floors. Sometimes I'll sit on something. I'll sit on the floor and just get my butt wet and sink in. It's fine. Sometimes I kneel in those boats. Uh, it would be really cool to have like like a pad like that thick that you sit on. That would be super cool. So I might recommend getting just like a thick pad, like foam that thick, and sitting on that would actually be pretty sweet. Figuring how to tie that in would be pretty cool. But yeah, that boat could be. It's really a sweet boat, and I love that boat. It could be better, and that's probably the biggest thing to improve is how you sit in that boat. All right, let's go to some of these comments. So here's like 5 weeks out. Yeah, cool. That's good to know. It's good to know because they're more out earlier. So yeah, I mean, get your frame, measure it, multiply 1.63, and ordering it. That's the easy solution, but you can do the math. Um, thanks, Willie. I bet if you measured yours, they would be 1.63. And if they're not, you switch to that better oar, and I think you find a difference pretty quick. You have to know oar lock length and cant. Wait, you have to know oar lock length and cant angle of towers plus frame width. Or should you have to know? Yeah, I see what you're saying. At oar tower height 2 plus cant angle. Yeah, I mean you have to know the angle. Um, and I'm pretty sure you could just go to NRS's website and it will say like, well, let's look at it right now. Hold on, let's see if I can find this NRS. Or I bet it doesn't give you angles. I bet it just gives you the lengths. Let's switch over to this right here. So I'm gonna say that I would never go with the tens. I've probably talked about this a million times. Never go with the tens, maybe the sixes, but those eights are the way to go. Let's see if there's dimension. That's a 6 inch. specs. Here we go. There you go. It doesn't give you an angle. It gives you an A and a B. So you can, on the 8-inch shore tower, it goes over another 3.5 inches from the center of the frame. So you can just find the distance between the center of the frame, add 7 inches, 3.5 for each side, assuming that you use it like this. And this is how I like to use mine, where the how do I explain this? How the I can't explain how I do it, but there's a way. Most people splay these out more, and so assuming you do it like this, it looks just like this on your boat. It's 7 inches, but if you splay yours out some more, it could be 9 inches, which would affect your oar length a little bit. All right. Feel the same about Jimbo. I called them NASA to build a C for Jimbo. They really should. They could build a super cool seat for that boat, and it would be a better boat. I feel bad because I designed the boat and I love the boat, but it could be better. I give them the specs and the drawings, and they make it. And to me, there's nothing like it out there, and it's pretty amazing. But I'd love to have it. I'd love to give them more feedback and make it better, but they're not asking me for that feedback. But a really cool seat would be really cool for that. At least one of the angles is a given. Yeah, we're getting some weird tangents there, Heidi. You get that? Do you get that trick joke? All right. Hose clamps. I bought some snazzy hose clamps for my Eclipse that are really solid, nice C pick. I think there's a pick here. These things, but they stick out so far they're tightened. I think it's a bit of a hazard, even with a little tape. I have to cut the extra threads off to fit through the store strips. Well, they wouldn't be. Yeah, that's a problem. We'll go back to standards hose clamps. Thoughts on the nice ones? Yeah, so that's a problem. And this is a pins who's wondering, because you use these clamps to clamp on the clip onto the oar. So those of you that run spinnies can just ignore this part. But that part that sticks out there is going to get, when you put the oar in the sheet, is going to catch all the time. And so it's going to be super annoying. So these are really cool, but I wouldn't go with these. I wouldn't call them a hazard. They're probably less of the hazard than a hose clamp, because the hose clamp has a sharp pieces that people cut their fingers on a lot if they're not careful. But yeah, I don't think I'd go with these. And so thoughts on the nice ones. Yeah, they look cool. But I probably wouldn't go with them. I've had great luck with hose clamps. I make sure they're not sharp. I get the right size. I change them every so often, because they do, like, if they get used too much, they kind of wear out. So I think hose clamps work great. All right, that was the last question, but I'll get to some of these other comments. The Holy Storage Tower's best angle for the lock makes it 9 inches plus. Yeah, I don't like. I think, Sean, you're splitting yours out. You're saying the best angle for the airlock. Man, I really like mine vertical, more vertical than you, but everybody's is a little different. But yeah, like, so it's 7 inches if they're correctly done, like the way NRS shows them. And correctly is relative. But what Sean's saying is he splaces out a little bit. So instead of being 7, it's 9 inches or more added on. If you run a 3-foot cam strap between the buckles by the backrest, it helps tighten the tubes. Yeah. The buckles by the backrest. Huh. We actually, when I'm running those boats, the Wing Jimbo, and we can try to bring that boat up. See if we can find it here on. There's a photo of it. Let's switch here. Here we go. So this is the Jimbo. And you can see how this is a photo from one of our Chetco trips. There's a dry bag in front of him and a dry bag behind him, and he's sitting down, which is that's the part where he sits there, kind of goes low in the water a little bit. and his back's up against this little black tube right here. If that black tube was eliminated and there was like a chair there, that would be really cool. What I end up doing when I run these is have a lot more gear in these things. So I'm actually sitting high on gear usually. So I'm usually using these as big, heavy gear boats. All right. When you tighten the threads, when you tighten them, the threads are way longer than the nut. If you cut the extra threads, they have to clamp. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just don't see the problem with regular hose clamps. So I'm pretty happy with those. Oh, the old, I don't understand this. Oh, old one's wider. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Sean. The old, if you're asking, are the old hose clamps wider? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Are old NRS towers wider than the newer? Are you asking, are the dimensions? I think the dimensions are exactly the same, the old ones and the new ones. I just think that people, I'm trying to explain this. Maybe I'm not. People, like they're designed to run like this, and people splay them out like that, so they're further apart. And so, if you mean wider, they're exactly the same ones. The old ones and the new ones. It's just the new ones look cooler. It's just that the people rarely run them as vertical as I think they're intended to do. Should we start a Jimbo support group? That'd be sweet. God, I love those boats. I'm a huge fan. I've used them a ton. Yeah, it'd be cool to have like a little Facebook group or something. Taking mine on the yeah. Yeah, that sitting in the water is a problem. I think Blair, like I said, if you got like a thick piece of foam and just rigged it down, I think that would be really sweet. And that's what I used an orange torpedo ducky. Uh, Actually, we had these Jimbos and the orange torpedo duckies side by side, and the orange torpedo duckies have these really cool seats with foam in the bottom. And we took it out of the orange torpedo ducky and put it in the Jimbo, and it was sweet. And I think Sotar made that seat actually, but a really cool, like I said, like piece of foam uh, that just gets your butt up off the floor would be really cool. The Type 4 throwable. Yes. Yeah, Austin. I think I know exactly what we're talking about. Like a type. That's what was in my head. Throwable cushion. It's one of these things. Probably like this is expensive. It's about $284. But man, something like there's $21. I'm not sure this is the one. Maybe do some research before just buying it. But something like this, it's yeah, here we go. With this, it's $10. And just setting that down in the bottom of the boat, you may have to cut it a little bit or something. I don't know. It may fit perfectly. And then just maybe using those straps to rig it to the floor so it doesn't move. That would be a sweet solution. Super easy solution too. Any thoughts on a deal frame with between tubes and a 12, 13-foot cat? I'll be running day trips in short California. Yeah, I think on all cats, well, most cats, 36 inches between tubes is pretty standard. I think that's a great distance between tubes. I know my friend Nate runs like I think 32. He runs a narrower in California, so I think 30. Personally, I think 36 is great. If you're running narrower rivers or maybe like really hard, like class 5+, maybe think about going narrower. But I would say for me, anywhere from 11-foot to 16-foot cats, I do 36 inches between tubes. Do you have a prefer or tower can't angle? That's a good question. How do I explain this? If it's the NRS, so if it's the NRS or towers, I if you look at the top of it, can we get these or towers back? I'm gonna try to explain this. NRS or towers. Okay, so let's go to this photo. Like that. Okay. So this is the oar tower. If you look at the top part, you can probably see, can you see the cursor? I think you can see the cursor right here. I want this parallel to the ground, and I want this parallel to the ground. So basically, the oar lock is going straight up. That's what I want. I want the oar lock straight up and down. Almost everybody believes that it should be this should be an angle, which it works fine that way. But I really like using this oar tower, this particular one, with this vertical to the ground. And so the angle, you can just get, I mean, from here, um, you have to do some, now you have to do some trig. Like the sine, let's see, the tangent of the angle is 6 3/8 over 3. And so the angle is the arctangent of 6 3/8 over 3. If you can do that trig, just arctangent, and I'll just put it in. We'll do arc tangent of 6 point, I think, isn't 3/8 3.75? 3, 6, 6, 375 divided by 3. Oh, it's in radians, of course. We'll go 1.13 rad 2 degrees. Oh, geez. Is that 1.13? 64 degrees. That's just my quick math. Somebody can double check me to see if I'm wrong. But theoretically, my preferred can angle is let's just say 65 degrees. Okay, I wonder if your tower dimensions. Sean, I don't think they did. I mean, that's a question for NRS. But I'm pretty sure they kept them the same. They just made them look cooler. So yeah, I've had people recommend this throw bag, the Soul Gear. I've had a number of people tell me this is as good as it gets. Let's look at these. This isn't the one. What's it called again? Waist belt throw bag. Shop. Where is it on here? River Rescue, I guess. This one. Yeah, this looks like a sweet. It's the same idea as the ones that Gaspar makes. It has the little pouch for the carabiner. It has the wraparound closure that's easy to access. It goes in a nice little spot. The nice little waist belt. It's $150. I honestly, I've never used this one, but it cannot be better than Gaspar's. I think the materials Gaspar uses are better personally. But and this is 60 feet of rope. So that's when you get this, that's your only choice is 60 feet. Doesn't NPS use to make you take that square throw? I'm not sure. I think that wasn't the NPS. I think it used to be like a state rule actually. Or towers are parallel. The top, yes. So the top, like those little flat things on top, are parallel to the ground basically. But yeah, exactly. Looks like a Gaspar knockoff. Yeah, I think a few people, and I don't know if theirs was a Gaspar knockoff or not. What Blair's saying is the Soul Gears, they took the one that WWTC made and just made it the same. Who knows? Who knows who made it first or whatever. I know some people have knocked off Gaspar's throw bags, and he's contacted and said, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? Stop!" And people have stopped. But yeah, Gaspar's look cooler. It depends on the look you like. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you want to be like made in the U.S. I mean, if you're from Utah, maybe you want to buy a Utah product. But the one thing about Gaspars that are really cool, and I'll bring that one up too, is the material. So that yellow material is probably fine, but the green that he uses is amazing. It's a really, really, what's the word? So let's go with this one. Yeah, so that green is just a really durable fabric, has that big reflective part right there. I think they look cool. I'm kind of used to them too. It's huge, not compact. Side extra bag. Huh. I didn't see the side extra bag. And Gaspar sells like I don't like the little side extra bags personally, but Gaspar sells a little bag you can add to the side to put stuff in like a sandwich or whatever. How much rope is in your rafting? Waist bag diameter. Man, really bum. Yeah, I just did a video that's gonna maybe tomorrow it's gonna show up on Gear Garage about length and diameter, and it's complicated because if you do like I think a 50-foot quarter-inch throw bag is kind of nice to have because it's just a quick zoom out and to rescue people, but it's useless for a lot of things. So I might have like a quarter-inch, 50-foot throw bag on my waist, but also have a big rescue line on the raft. Or if I'm going to carry just one throw bag and not have multiple ones, I might go with something like this. It's I think this one's 70. It's 65 feet, or even a 75-foot one with beefier rope. And so it depends. Like if it's just one throw bag, maybe an 8mm. If it's two throw bags, like I said, a waist belt and something else, maybe different options. I have a whole episode coming out about this in a couple days. Yeah, that material that Gaspar uses is just so tough. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The flip line. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, it's a cool place to put your flip line. I think people put pulleys in those side bags, and I'm not a massive fan of that myself, but that's a cool place to put a flip line. Does a waist belt throw back at your overall balance and make you heavier? I'm pretty sure it adds to your overall buoyancy. The rope floats. So I mean, if you put that bag in the water, that whole thing in the water is going to float. And so I'm not sure how much buoyancy it adds, but it doesn't sink, so it doesn't decrease your buoyancy. All right, that is it for the day. Thank you everybody for watching, for submitting questions. I just want to do a quick reminder. We're trying to organize Whitewater Guidebook, or one of our websites, and Gear Garage a little bit better. Gear Garage has been kind of a mess, and we've had just things everywhere. And so now we have a Gear Garage tab on Whitewater Guidebook, and you can ask a question or add a comment here. So if you want to ask us a question, this is the best way to get it to Aaron and I, for us to answer on the show, or just want to comment like, hey guys, your show sucks. Make it better. Like this is where you can make that kind of comment. I also moved the podcast version of the Friday show to Whitewater Guidebook. So it used to be at rivertalkpodcast.com. That was getting unwieldy to manage, and it's the wrong name. And so the podcast version is on Whitewater Guidebook now, and it looks better. And if you subscribe to River Talk Podcast, that's just gone now. Like I got rid of that because it was too much for me to manage. And you can resubscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Spotify if you want to subscribe on on a podcast thing, which you shouldn't do. You should watch the live show. But if you do want to listen to it as a podcast, I put a way to subscribe. So yeah. Anyway, looks like we have a little bit more. Bum waist bump. Yep. A little more, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys Friday. We'll have a good show Friday. The topic's going to be best practices, which we have some stuff planned for. We're super excited about. So hopefully, we'll see a lot of you on Friday.